For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Mutsabi Hoyani. Political analyst Aubrey Machikli joins me to discuss businessperson and activist Mamphela Ramphele's party political platform, Agang. Thank you so much, Aubrey, for joining us today. Dr. Mamphela Ramphele has recently launched a party political platform called Agang. Why do you think she has chosen to launch her own initiative rather than work with an existing political formation to advance her vision?
Well, I went to the launch of Agang, and she argued that her message was unique and therefore needed a unique expression in terms of a political party, or in this case, a political platform. Her argument is that South Africa has lost her sense of idealism, the kind of idealism we had in 1994. And the ANC government has deviated from the dreams we had for the country in 1994, and therefore believes that the best way of giving expression to this dream is not to enjoin herself to another party, but to form her own platform. In fact, in her words, she said, "I am not a joiner."
Bearing in mind that only a few months are left until the 2014 election, do you think Ramphele plans to contest the 2014 election, and how would you judge her prospects?
Well, she says she definitely will contest the 2014 elections. You are right, we are left with only 14 months before the next election. My worry is that she also says that she will engage in a process of consultation across the political and ideological spectrum, a time that she needs to build her party, to position it, to clarify its policy platform, and to clarify its values and principles, and therefore create a distinct identity for Agang that is different from the ANC, the DA, and other political parties. Unfortunately, she'll be using time she needs to do all of this in consultation with others across the board, including those who will be competing with her during the 2014 elections. My view is that her time would be better spent doing all this work I've just spoken about.
Explain your view that Ramphele's initiative might be a panic response to President Zuma's re-election as ANC president in Mangaung in December last year.
Well, I've characterized the period from about 2005, when President Jacob Zuma was fired by former President Thabo Mbeki as the deputy president of the country, to the time he was elected in Polokwane as ANC president, up to December last year when he was re-elected as ANC president, as the Zuma moment. And those who were quite skeptical about his capacity and his ability to lead a modern state and a modern economy have become even more skeptical. And in response, we have heard voices, particularly in civil society, arguing that the ANC, under the leadership of Jacob Zuma, has become even more ambivalent towards democratic values. Those who are even more harsh in their criticism of the president have argued that his election, his ascendance to power in the presidency of the party and the country is an indication of the extent to which the ANC has deviated from values such as constitutionalism, the rule of law, and so on. So as part of this reaction to what I call the Zuma moment, you see the emergence of entities such as Agang. And therefore, I characterize Agang as another response to the Zuma moment. The panic for me, I think, occurs when in Mangaung, President Jacob Zuma is re-elected.
You mentioned in your article that Agang's tentacles extend to both civil society and the party political spaces. Do you think this will assist or hinder Agang's prospects of success?
Well, let's look at Dr. Ramphele. She has accumulated a lot of respect and a lot of credibility because of the work she's been doing in the civil society space. because of the values and democratic principles she has been espousing in the civil society space. The difficulty for me is whether it is possible for her to export from the civil society space to the party political space the credibility and respect she has accumulated in the civil society space. Because in the party political space, especially in the context of electoral politics, the tension between values and principles on the one hand and political interests tends to be much sharper. So she might be forced to make choices that are at variance with her own values and principles.
Somewhat starkly, you suggest that Ramphele's focus on the rule of law and on defending the constitution will not give her wide support, as the electorate is more concerned about issues of poverty, unemployment and inequality. Do you not think that Ramphele will attempt to show that corruption and the breakdown of the rule of law are the very issues that have led to the democratic government's failure to address ongoing poverty?
Well, when I say that issues such as the rule of law, values such as constitutionalism are not going to attract those who sit in the ANC support base at the moment, I am not suggesting that these values are unimportant to the ordinary voter, particularly the voter who currently votes for the ANC. What I am suggesting is that because of their lived reality, because of their social and economic conditions, these voters have different priorities which arise directly from their lived reality. They are concerned more about whether they are going to eat, whether they will have a roof over their heads, whether they will have a job. So issues such as poverty and unemployment are more important to them than these values. Now, to put it starkly, it is like giving a hungry child an expensive toy. All children love toys. But to give a hungry child an expensive toy does not address what is a priority to that child.
You state in your column that South Africa should celebrate every time a new political party is formed. What informs your views in this regard?
I think we should, because we have committed ourselves to multi-party democracy. And we must therefore do the multi-party democracy thing very well. And what that means to me is that all of us, irrespective of the political party one supports, must work towards the emergence of a competitive party system. Because at the moment our party system is not competitive. We have the single party dominance of the ANC over the political landscape as a whole, and in the opposition space, you have the single party dominance of the DA. Now, it is going to be in our interests one day to have a party political system that is much more competitive than what we have today. And also, when a political party, particularly a ruling party, knows that there is the possibility of an alternation of power between parties, such a party becomes more sensitive to the interests and needs of ordinary citizens. And at the moment, some of the complaints you hear arise directly from the fact that the ANC is too powerful, and if it continues to be too powerful and it is for too long, it will become desensitized to the interests and concerns of ordinary voters and citizens. But another reason why we must celebrate the formation of new parties is that whether these parties falter or they stumble or are a temporary part of the political landscape is not the issue. The issue for me is that they all make a contribution towards the emergence one day of a competitive party system. And that is why we must celebrate them, because that one party or those parties that one day will succeed in challenging the ruling party effectively shall have done so because they have learned lessons from the earlier attempts of those parties that did falter and stumble in the beginning.
That was political analyst Aubrey Machikwi.